Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be in the world, and welcome to round two of the Cervelo Gravel Rush series. That's me on the bottom left, a newly minted picture of me. I'm Matt Stevens. I'm going to be calling this event today, and alongside me is a former professional rider and a member of the Zwift team. It is Wes Salzberger, all the way across the other side of the world. I'm in the UK, he is in Australia. We're all, of course, on a lockdown at the moment. But we have round two to talk you through, and this is the round two of the Gravel Rush series is on the jungle circuit. They're already a little bit of, they're just running down the downhill section before they approach the jungle circuit. So we have a 2 kilometer run into this circuit for a total of 21.4 kilometers. They face 2 laps of the jungle circuit, which means they'll pass through the finish line on 2 occasions. And we have we've got 524 riders here in this field. And Wes, we had a great event last week. Remember, it's worth mentioning here that this isn't technically a race. It's an event that anybody can ride. They'll be riding on a Cervelo gravel bike and a Spero. They'll also unlock the Cervelo specialist kit as well. You can see everybody in the same clothing. But of course, at the sharp end of this event, things do hot up, and we do have an unofficial race at the front. Last week's winner, Ollie Jones, who was extremely aggressive out in front, got caught and then managed to win the sprint in the end, is back in the mix. Expect him to perform well. But Wes, we had a great round last week. I'm looking forward to seeing how the riders tackle this one.
We did. It was very exciting when Ollie and both Alex were out the front there. Oh, it looks like a very old, nice photo there of me too, back in the heydays. But looking in here tonight as well, it looks like that Oliver's Racing have got Liam White in there as well. So Liam White is the older brother of Nicholas White, who was one of the former Zwift Academy finalists with Ollie Jones. So a bit of old rivalry there between some friendly brother competition, but. Liam rides for the Oliver's Racing team, so there's a few other NRS riders in amongst this as well, and we do have welcome Ollie and also Alex West in the field as well. So those two were very prominent last time, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. I mean, they did, quite an amazing ride. We saw Alex West go out in front early on. Ollie Jones then made Ollie Jones actually went very early on. I was looking at the average power that Ollie Jones put out for the whole ride last week. I was just going through some stats. Quite amazing average wattage, Wes. Just give me a guess. What do you reckon he averaged? Because remember, he got away for that break. He was away for about 15 k's, got caught, and then went again. So give me a rough guess.
Well, I reckon I'll give you the watts per kilo. I reckon he would have averaged over 5.5 watts per kilo. I reckon he would average. So depending on his weight, that could be anywhere from 460 watts or something like that. I don't know.
Well, he averaged 366 watts for the entire ride, and that obviously includes in parts when he was sat in the bunch. We're just looking at the stats here of Liam White. Again, very, very fast pace at the front here. Everybody decked out in this rather spectacular, or rather attractive, should I say, Cervelo livery. If you do enter any one of these Gravel Rush Series events, you unlock that kit. You also ride on a Cervelo Espero. All of the riders in this event are on that one particular bike. The feel of the bike is a little bit different. Most of the route, the jungle route that we're going to be on here is going to be on gravel. There's bits of wood as well. We do a ride across the famous Indiana Jones rope bridge on 2 occasions. The course last week went across that. But Wes, it's worth talking a little bit about the bikes that the riders are using. Different kind of feel, different attributes, which matches the kind of feel that these bikes would have as much as you can on Zwift in the real world.
Yeah, it definitely gives that different element to the game, and obviously throughout this series there is a number of different Cervelo bikes, gravel bikes, that will get to feature, and then at the end of this series you'll get to actual choice, Matt, as well, to choose which bike that suits your, I guess, riding style. So as we chatted a little bit about last week, if you're that sort of, I guess, an Ollie Jones, for instance, in this style, that is quite aggressive and likes to get out in front, then he'd probably be along the lines of something that's a little bit more road positioned for that aerodynamics and that side of it as well. So the riders here definitely will be thinking about that about that selection throughout this series, because if you are taking part, you do get that choice, Matt, of what bike is going to suit your strengths.
Indeed. Well, last week, as you say, just to touch on that, just to talk about the key features of what makes this series so different. We've never had an event series on Zwift held off-road, well, not fully off-road, but on gravel or on mixed surfaces, should we say. Now, last week, the riders used the Cervelo Aspero, which is a gravel bike. They're on that same bike today, again, the Aspero. Next week, they're going to be on the Cervelo R5, which is it's a road bike with a slightly more relaxed geometry, an endurance type of geometry, because there's a little bit more tarmac. And then, as Wes pointed out, the final event, which is week 4, which is the Battle of the Bikes, which is very aptly titled. Every single rider who races or rides will get to choose their ride based on the experience that they've had over the previous week. So based on the kind of feel, based on the kind of ride they want, they want more of a comfortable ride. Do they want an aggressive ride? As we just see the main field, the front end of the main field, just moving over these wooden planks here. It's just through the cave. And we can just see a little bit further back this field already splitting up. And it's worth mentioning, isn't it, again, Wes, that there's some real elite riders at the sharp end who have gone away very, very quickly. But for the rest of the field, it's a matter of finding their own pace, finding a group they're happy with, and just enjoying the experience of riding on this unique surface.
Yeah, and with this nice sized pack here that they have now, obviously some of these riders will be looking to move up throughout these little pinches that come and follow on this circuit, because this circuit is quite demanding, Matt. I mean, I've rode it a few times, during events, and it is quite challenging. Those little ups and downs. There isn't a lot of rest, in general on Zwift racing. So this course is definitely challenging for the riders. I have seen a few other names. That have popped in here for this racing. I was having a little bit of a gander before we got kicked off there, but I do see Adrian Adams, Nadsy, he goes under the name on Zwift. He's up there, a part of the WP Tas, which is a community team racing out of Tasmania, so from my home island state. And we also have Jeffrey Keel in there as well from Team Vision, who is previous Zwift champion for South Africa. So a few different names in here as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's there's a real mix of riders, as we see. Looking at the stats of Ollie Jones, of course, back in 2017 was the first ever winner of the Zwift Academy. Still only 23 years of age, but has really taken to riding on Zwift races by day for Canyon ZCC. Of course, the riders are riding for the teams in this event, but because of the Cervelo kit, can't quite pick them out quite as well. Maybe we'll have to pick out riders by the type of socks or the helmet or even the hairstyle that they're wearing. And if you're watching this for the very first time, all these avatars, you can actually tailor yourself. You can choose, depending on the level, depending on your experience on Zwift. As we just had up this drag, you can actually choose your wheels, you can choose your hairstyle, even choose your facial hair. It really is quite amazing. And the more you ride on Zwift, the more elements of the game you can unlock. And talking about elements of the game, up this long drag here, where we're seeing a few riders just using a couple of power-ups, because when we went through the finish line banner for the first time, that's when these riders are given random power-ups.
Yeah, and some of those power-ups can be utilized straight away, or actually kept up the sleeve as well, Matt. So we might see some of these riders, not wanting to hold on to those power-ups. So if you're coming down to a sprint finish, you most likely want to hold on to that aero power-up. Also, the featherweight power-up is quite a handy one too. If you're planning on that sort of a late launch attack, it can help you get that little bit of a gap and distance. And I guess there is those other new power-ups as well that we touched on last week as well. Or the ghost power-up was one of your favorites there, wasn't it, Matt?
Yeah, the invisibility power-up. I think we saw that utilized just in the final, didn't we? One of the riders attacked. Nobody else could see him go. And as we're dwelling on power-ups, as you just see the bunch really starting to thin out up this long drag. It's about a 2.5 kilometer climb before they then go over the rope bridge and start heading down again towards the back part of the circuit. Yeah, an aero power-up is the one that everybody wants when it comes down to a sprint. It makes you more aerodynamic for 15 seconds. The draft power-up means it doubles the feeling of drafting for 30 seconds. Then we have the everything burrito, which is basically makes you undraftable for 10 seconds. So good if you want to try and break away and anybody wants to try and come across. They do not get the benefit of sitting on the wheel. And then the invisibility one, which is the newest to the family of power-ups on Zwift, is basically when you are invisible for 10 seconds. So great if you want to attack. Bit of a classic stealth move. and we have seen that used in Zwift racing recently. And then feather power up is the one you want on the climbs, which makes you 9 kilograms later for 15 seconds. So very, very significant if you want to save energy on a climb or try and attack.
Those power ups, Matt, will be used down to a T from the experienced riders tonight. So it definitely can have a huge impact. It's a matter of winning or losing the race when it comes down to it. And I guess the most well-positioned riders in here, which we saw, probably not even rely on those power ups last week, was obviously Ollie Jones and Alex West. But these other riders can definitely make use of that, and actually they can learn from taking note. We see the power ups being used at the front here now, and that looks like Ollie Jones actually using a featherweight as we talk about that, Matt. So they can learn straight away from what to use. Obviously, you got to have the watts to match it, because I can get that out. But it looks like Ollie's just prominently showing us right now.
No, he certainly is. He used a feather power up. He's a powerfully built rider. Weighs about 73 kilograms in real life. So he would have gone down to about 65 kilograms in weight in game. And then when you factor in the kind of power that this rider can put out, and there you go, 480 watts he's holding, that means it's pretty easy or efficient for him to have opened up a gap. And this is what we saw him do last week. Went very, very early on before coming back, and then his teammate went over the top. But we've got Aitken now coming across. Good move by Aitken, straight over the top as well, which is a bit of a surprise. Aitken looking very, very good here. So we've got two New Zealand. No, we've got two riders from New Zealand out in front now.
That's perfect. Yeah, it looks like there's a little bit of a gap there now. There's a little bit of pause in the bunch, so this is going to make things interesting now, and it's great to see these two will definitely probably like to work together here. Ollie, as of last week, didn't really. Sorry, it was Alex who went out early last week and didn't really get anyone come across to join him. But I'm sure Ollie will be very pleased to have someone out in front with him there to work with. And this is actually quite dangerous, Matt. The gap now is starting to just spread out to, what are we at, 8 seconds now, and going out further. And across this bridge now, your favourite part, Matt.
It is. This is my favourite part. This is where I just like to sit back and admire the spectacular scenery. It's almost like something from a film. Every time we see this, I do quote Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. The people who designed this game really went to town on this. It is absolutely spectacular. Maybe next time across we'll get the side shot, which is absolutely great. But this part of the rope bridge, very, very steep, 9 or 10%. You see some big bits, big power being kicked up just over the top. But now, mercifully, they do have a long descent before we head back round to the other part of the circuit as we look at the stats of Chris Aitken. Still on this downhill section where he's putting out 386 watts. These guys are not hanging around. This is a move that they want to stick. As we look a little bit further behind, a lot of damage has been done.
A lot of damage has been done, and this is certainly going to make it very difficult for those riders that were hoping to sort of hang in this bunch for as long as they could and hoping that it would group together. But it looks like everyone's up in that across that threshold now, and it's certainly going to make it very challenging to keep a tight knit group. So we are seeing some gaps open even back in the main peloton there back there now, Matt. So certainly challenging times, and we were talking a little bit earlier before the stream started as well of enjoying the sights, and you do love that Indiana Bridge. I was just saying to you previously that I probably just really experienced looking around Zwift today, because I've recently just purchased myself a projector to put Zwift up in a new different way, and I'm seeing it in a new world, really. And so I was looking at all those different sites you were talking about. It was the first time I've actually had a look around and saw the dolphins swimming under that underwater tongue.
Yeah, the designers have really, as I said, really gone to town. There's so much lovely detail. I mean, you can, of course, very, very efficiently ride on Zwift and just use your phone. You can go up a little bit to a tablet, then to a laptop, then to a TV. But you have gone fully to town there, with a projector, cinematic feel to Zwift. That is what it's all about. Fully immersive. You'll never get off it, mate.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried, actually. I was checking the mail every day, actually, waiting for it this week. So I'm glad it's turned up, and so far so good.
Well, good stuff. Well, we've still got Jones and Aitken relaying out in front, but it looks as if the gap has actually come down. That was a real concerted chase. Only a couple of seconds now for our two leaders. We've got a big group of riders. Looks like there's about 10 or 15 riders that have managed to just get back in contact now. or just nearly 1 second is the gap. Alex West is one of the riders. White is there as well. Roberts and Sinclair. Unsurprisingly, lots of Aussies, lots of New Zealanders in the mix here. But did think that move would stick, but it just shows how aggressive and it just shows how determined the other riders are, and also how we're seeing increasingly in these races on Zwift, Wes, that we used to see riders go clear and never come back. Now we're seeing riders understand how the game works, understand how important it is to ride together, and we've seen the race now come back together.
Yeah, we've seen some different scenarios, and definitely it is a changing dynamic now that with the Zwift racing. People are learning those tricks of the trade, I guess you'd say. Obviously, a lot of these riders here are experienced, but some of these other riders that aren't, as I said before, Matt, are picking up that experience right now.
Yeah, we're just seeing one rider go clear. This is the leading pack. Sinclair, Creel, Aitken, who went away earlier on. White is in there as well. Liam White, who you talked about earlier on. Then we're looking at the stats now of Rowan Diva. 186 watts. We're on a downhill section here, but if you can just see, there is one rider that has actually gone clear. Just clips off the front. Not too sure exactly who that rider is, but as we saw the side-angled shot, a rider attacked, slingshotted himself off the front, and he's just dangling at about 1 or 2 seconds at the moment. So a good move. I think it is actually Diva who's moved off the front as we look at the stats of a Frenchman, Anthony Pro, 345 watts. And even just to stay in this group, Wes, these riders are really having to kick out some serious power. This is not easy at all, and only 9.1 kilometers to go. We'll cross through the finish again, and then we'll hear the bell. Well, we won't hear the bell, but it'll be the bell lap.
Well, I might be able to help out there. I think cowbell somewhere in here in the apartment. But I've just got some other information as well there. We saw Ben Hill come to a head-to-head with Ollie Jones last week. Unfortunately, Ben had it all scheduled in, but hadn't spoke to his other half, his better half, Rebecca Wyzak, a former professional cyclist as well, who's actually leading a Zwift group ride at the moment. So the scheduling of the Wahoo kicker didn't quite favour Ben. So he actually tried to go to someone else's house, but I think with the restrictions at the moment, he decided against that, and he's ready for next week, he said. So Ben Hill, second place last week, and I think he's going to come back to try and rival Ollie.
Well, there we go. Thanks very much indeed. Well, meanwhile, that's good to have an update on one of the riders who animated things last week, of course. But now we're looking at two new leaders. It is Bral of France and Cam Roberts. Moving clear now. They're just going through this caved section just across the wooden boards, back onto the tarmac briefly before they join the gravel again. And it won't be long before they pass through that finish banner and they have one lap to go. But they've opened up a nice little gap here, Wes, of 4 seconds. This is a good move, and interesting that West and Jones have managed to get into every single move so far in this series, but have missed out on this one. This is a sneaky, nice little move.
It is a sneaky little move here, and Cam Roberts is quite a strong rider in the National Road Series as well. Had a lot of success also with the SRAM Send It series that we run in-game last year on Zwift, and he actually took out that series. So he's very well accomplished across on Zwift and also in the National Road Series, taking out a number of the stages in races as well.
Well, two very experienced Zwift riders now moving clear, working well together, still holding that gap of 4 seconds, kicking out some big power. Remember, one more lap to go now of this circuit. And as we see the riders this is some riders who are a little bit further behind, should I say. Just a lovely side-on shot of that shiny Cervelo kit that you can get if you join in this series. All you need to do is ride one of the events of the Cervelo Gravel Rush series and you will unlock that jersey. And if you ride all four, then you get entered into a draw to win a Cervelo Aspero bike in real life. We omitted to mention that at the top, but that is one of the big features of this series. You get the opportunity to win an actual bike to use in the real world, which is absolutely wonderful stuff, isn't it, Wes?
I would love that opportunity, yeah, but unfortunately I'm not eligible because I'm working for Zwift, but that doesn't mean that you can't jump in if you're listening right now and want to give this thing a go. Then, like we said, Matt, you can have that opportunity. So it is a really cool prize to have that something material in your hand that you can take out the trail would be really something special. And they look to be moving along again pretty nicely here. Cam Roberts is also a rider, which we didn't mention. You can see the GPM in his name there. So that's the team that he rides for is called GPM Salts. So that team has been featured heavily throughout the National Road Series, and we see him actually solo here now.
Yeah, he's managed to drop the Frenchman. The Frenchman could not hold the pace being set by Roberts up this climb. And look at the damage that acceleration has caused. This is a long drag. It's about 2.5 to 3 minutes of real effort, maybe just a little bit over threshold when you look at the stats of Jeffrey Creel trying to just hold into this group. He was upwards of 700 watts. I think that was the effort to get himself back in the group. It really has fragmented through the finish and up the first part of this climb. Absolutely spectacular, really fast and furious racing. And I think we're seeing this slightly more aggressive racing, Wes, this week, because the event is 7 kilometers shorter and it's only 21 kilometers in length, which is almost kind of full throttle kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that definitely has changed the dynamics of this event, and probably the mentality of some of the being that little bit shorter. 29 kilometers race on Zwift is certainly something to maybe hold back if you're not feeling fully confident, in taking on some of those attacks. But we are seeing a little bit more aggressive racing here. We are seeing some nice pimping of the bikes as well there. We look at that beautiful disc there. So that was part of a speed project series with Zip, and it looks like that he's taking full use of that. Who we've seen there's Jeffrey Keel actually with the time trial helmet as well, taking aerodynamics to the limit here. Jeffrey Keel is actually a former Zwift champion for South Africa. So very strong rider. And if we weren't seeing these riders all in Cervelo kit, I would imagine that Jeffrey Keel would have his black Zwift in-game South African Championship jersey on.
Indeed. Well, he had the King of the Mountains gloves on there. It was a real mix of old and new kit. I mean, that really did stand out. I was almost hypnotized, in fact, by that rather marvelous Zip disc wheel. I almost went into a trance-like state there was. I was going to ask you to take over, but we've still got one rider just flipped off the front. Couple of featherweight power-ups being used here. Starting to split. This is where the road just kicks again. I'm not too sure how helpful that disc wheel is going to be on this upright section, but definitely one of the most aerodynamic riders. But we've got a little bit of a split. This is the stats of Jesse Feitenbeat, who last week was actually 5th in the race. A good ride, keeping his powder a little bit dry, but having to respond to some of these moves. Lots of action here, because this is one of the last points in the race before we head downhill to the finish for riders really to make a difference, I think, Wes.
Yes, and Jesse Feitenbeat is also one of those National Roads for Team Oliver's. And he's actually got a teammate in there as well, back 3 seconds back, 5 seconds back, Denver as well. So Rowan Denver's also in there from Oliver's. So it's nice that we see Ollie Jones up the front there as well as Alex West. So this is certainly going to be a challenge here. There's a few gaps still. It's not all back together here, Matt. And it really does, it does matter that when you see that little avatar saying, 1, 2, 3 meters, if you're out of that 5 meter zone and don't quite get on that wheel, it is really like that in real life effect. If you miss that wheel, which we know quite well from racing, Matt, if you just don't get on that wheel, you are just seeing daylight and open up, and you just, it's really punishing once you lose that gap.
It certainly is. That's why we see these riders, if they do lose the gap, it's important that they make an effort straight away. We're just going past some lapped riders. This just shows how fast this front group is going. Remember, at the sharp end of this race, they are racing, but it is technically just an event anybody can ride. So anybody watching now, if you're on Zwift, you can hop on board and join this event next week. There are rides throughout the week as well. But you have to be pretty special to stay at the front end, because they are moving very swiftly indeed. The dust clouds kicking up back onto the rope bridge as night is starting to fall. Dramatic scenes here in round 2 of the Cervelo Gravel Rush Series. Indiana Jones Bridge, Alex West in the middle here. And thank you very much to our producer on the ground, giving us some fantastic cinematic shots. But it's all back together as one rider just starts to go clear. I think we've got maybe 8 or 9 riders in the front group now.
It certainly we're going across that bridge now. I was just Jones theme across the broadcast there, but he's decided not to. But Alex West we're just following now, and Alex is just sort of seems to be not quite as aggressive this time around. Seems to be saving it a little bit more. Ollie and Alex seem to be a little bit more probably, I guess, targeted, but I think that may not be just targeted, because it seems that this race compared to last week is a lot more aggressive. So it's a little bit harder to get that gap. And we're seeing everyone sort of that Grupo Compacto come back together now. They'll probably have a little bit of a breath here and think about it, but it is still quite stretched out here, Matt.
Yeah, Hopkins is out in front. There's a little group behind with Ollie Jones, and you can just see him towards the back of this group at the moment. They're a couple of about 1 or 2 seconds. Weston Jones, the 2 riders from Canyon ZCC, the first ever esports only cycling team. Now they're trying to shut this gap because that is a dangerous move out in front. They are moving at a pace here as well on this descent. Then there's a little bit of a flat section before the finish line. Only 3.7 kilometers to go, and this is still anybody's race at the moment. Very, very aggressive. And these bikes, it's worth mentioning, we are on the gravel section. We are on these gravel bikes, on these Cervelo Asperos, and they do handle just a little bit differently, don't they, Wes? You're going to have to really apply your effort, start your sprint maybe a little bit longer because the bikes respond in a different way.
Absolutely, yeah, it is. It is a lot different to the generic road bike on Zwift. So there is those features in there. So some of these riders will have to adapt to that. And if they're not used to that, Matt, then that may be their downfall. But certainly, I think these riders will get used to it. They did have one go at it if they took part in last week's race. But it's all looking together here now. Everyone's probably, I guess, marking each other at this stage now. Obviously, Ollie Jones, Alex West are the standouts here, but will we see an upset from an outsider here? You know, there is a good number from the Oliver's racing team here. If I was up to them, I would really try and put someone out here as a carrot to weaken someone of the likes of Ollie Jones. So I think they've got Nick White, Denver, and then they've got Featonby in there as well. So they've got the numbers. It'd be interesting to see whether Cam Roberts does a flyer as well. He'd be one to look out for a breakaway.
And we've got Sinclair as well in the mix as well. This is a very, very good group. Some very, very strong riders. This is a little chase group, or is this the group that's just gone off the front now? Ollie Jones is with Bro. He attacked her. No, this is a group that's just gone clear on the front. They're just about to go past yet another lap rider, throwing down attacks on the descent here. Only 2.7 kilometers to go now. Still a very, very fast section. It is Jones, I think, who's out in front on his own. This is very...
It looks to be Jesse Featonby out in front here. Featonby is out in front from Oliver's racing team, and we did see the really long time there. I saw the orange numbers. Now Hopkins is out after him now. Hopkins is 1 second off the pace here. Then we see Alex Jones and Alex Jones. Geez, I'm getting tied up here. We're seeing Ollie Jones and Alex West come to the front here now. They're starting to get a little bit worried about it. Hopkins straight past, sucked the helmet off there of Featonby. It looks like this is all scattered here now, Matt. It's coming a real lolly scramble. It looks like Jones is coming back up here now, a couple of seconds off the pace. This is going to get exciting here, Matt. I'll let you come in now and take over this next part.
Well, we've still got 1,800 metres to go, and Ollie Jones, after that big effort, is actually been overtaken by a couple of riders here. It is Featonby who's still in front, putting out a lot of power. Well, he's starting to tire a little bit as we look a little bit further down here. Let's head back to the front. 1,800 metres still to go. Still around 2 minutes of effort, especially on this road surface as well, on this gravel, on these Aspero bikes. Hopkins now looking very, very good indeed. The road does start to flatten in just a little bit. They go through the cave, and then it's very, very late before the finishing gantry comes into view. They'll know it. They've gone through it on a couple of occasions. They've raced this circuit before. But this is very, very exciting running. Riders here, it's very interesting ways. Riders want to attack. They're not happy to leave this to a sprint because I think there's a few riders with unknown capacity. They don't really want to gamble, do they?
No, they don't want to gamble here. And Hopkins is holding pretty strong there out at 5.5 watts. We see a rider coming across to join him now. Straight past, actually, that's the French rider there of Baldolts. So looks like Denver's back there, a couple of seconds back behind. So these riders here now, Nick White as well. So Denver and Nick White are actually teammates there. So maybe Denver doing the job here for Nick to come down to the sprint. Brother of one of the former Zwift Academy finalists. So Ollie Jones is up there in the mix. And also Alex West. So this is really coming down to the wire now. 4 seconds out here to the French rider. And we go back to Hopkins, who's still clear of the bunch, only by a few seconds.
Well, things have split up behind. A good attack there by Bro on the front. He has a 6-second lead. And then the rest are at 6s and 7s. No real cohesive chase now. Bro won't be long before he comes into the finish. He's going to come round the corner, but then the sprints are opening up. Jones is starting to go. West as well. White and Roberts. Can the Frenchman hold on? But it's Aitken coming through. Aitken takes the lead, sweeps past the Frenchman, and I think he's got it. Well, that was absolutely amazing. We've still got a little bit of a distance to go. Now, Aiken is out in front, 14 watts a kilo. Absolutely fantastic stuff. I think he did sweep through the finish line in first position there. I think the winner was Aiken. Let's have a little look at this. Remember, this finish line comes through very, very quickly indeed. Well, absolutely wonderful stuff. I think it was Aiken that took the win.
It comes around that sweeping corner there. It was super close there, and that's not the replay. There looks like some other finishes, but we'll come back to that for an instant replay. I'm sure Johnny's working on that for us now. But that come down to a really nail biter finish there. It was pretty much as close as last week as well. So it'd be great to get that footage and see who got up there at the final there, Matt. But overall, I'm sure that a lot of the riders here, really enjoyed the gravel experience. We've seen the dust fly, and even if you went up that point in of the peloton, there was 500 and something riders take part in this series as well. So, it's great that the community can all come together here, no matter the ability.
No, definitely, yeah. Well, we'll get confirmation of that result. But as you say, riders still taking their time. A few of the riders here just riding through nice and steady, enjoying this wonderful scenery. A couple of rather exotic birds just throwing it through the screen there as well. As we see a few riders just opening up their sprint and crossing the line. But a Japanese rider there just rolling through. I think that person has got another lap to go. But as you said, Wes, you have got this is an event that anybody can ride. The guys and girls at the sharp end, happy to race it for the win. But again, it's about the experience. It's about entering this event, training, keeping yourself fit, enjoying riding with the broader Zwift community. And as we say, the riders from all over the world, 500 riders plus we had in this event, which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, 526 riders. That's a good number. I think that's definitely a little bit up week. So also we're getting a bit of news there from my insiders saying that Aiken was also a cyclocross rider. So we saw Aiken heavily featured throughout the racing. So and he used to ride for the Oliver's racing team. So so before switching across to focus on the dirt. So he is actually a dirt rider. So we see Aiken come across with the win there, Matt.
Indeed. Well, Chris Aiken takes the win in front of Anthony Bro. Ollie Jones is third after taking the event last week. Then we have Nick White in at fourth place. And just look how spread out these riders are. One big line out, not a proper bunch sprint at all. Very aggressive race. Alex West in sixth. Then we have Aidan Sinclair in seventh position. Then we have Rowan Diva, Dylan Hopkins, and then rounding out the top 10 for Germany. 31 seconds adrift. Just shows how attritional this race is Christopher Case. It's a wonderful race, and again, a different kind of style of racing as we saw last week. Very, very aggressive, and maybe that's the way that it's going to have to go. There's a different feel to these bikes with a smaller group, riders not willing to wait for a sprint. What it's given us is a really, really interesting proposition. And we've never seen racing on Zwift on gravel before. Do you know what, Wes? I'm really starting to enjoy this.
Yeah, I'm really. This has definitely brought something different to the broadcast, having it on these different circuits and the gravel side of it. And it is pretty impressive that we see Chris Aiken take the win. He's actually a gravel rider. He's actually switched his focus to dirt riding, and is new to Zwift as well, which is pretty impressive. And he's actually represented Australia in cyclocross before as well. So I think we got the right winner out of the in real life and the in-game side of it here.
Certainly did. No, a good sprint there, but a wonderful rider. It's worth taking your hat off to Anthony Bro. Went with about 1,200 meters to go. Was kicking up some big power. But then the sprint was launched by Jones and Aiken. But Aiken had what it took, and actually took a second, or just over a second out of Ollie Jones to take that big win. But just shows maybe that sort of, the effort that it takes to mountain bike to cyclocross, although there are spikes in sort of power, actually sprinting is slightly different. It's a slightly more sluggish, longer, drawn-out affair, and clearly bringing over that experience on the road has really paid dividends for Chris Aiken today.
It definitely has, and well done to everyone that took part, as we touched on before. 526 riders taking in this race / group ride today as well. So, you don't have to get out there and smash it with the watts with the likes of Chris Aiken and Ollie Jones and the rest. But overall, I think everyone's really enjoying this series, Matt. And it is a different element riding on these different terrains and this off-road style. So great job to everyone that took part today. And thanks to everyone that's tuned into the stream.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. We will be back again. We've still got another 2 rounds to go, Wes. I cannot wait. We're only halfway through this Cervelo Gravel Rush series, so please join us again next week. It's on Thursday. If you keep your eye on Zwift.com and of course on Zwift's Facebook page, we'll get the exact times to you. But Thursday, April the 9th is round 3. They're on a Cervelo R5 road bike, slightly bit more of a tarmac in the mix next week. It is the Road to Ruins reverse route, 18.4 miles, which equates to 29.6 Ks. And as Wes just touched upon, it's not just an event for the elite riders. It's an event for everybody. You can unlock yourself a Cervelo jersey. You can get to ride on the Cervelo R5. It is a fantastic experience. Let's get the numbers above 500 next week. I'm looking forward to seeing you all again. Following that week, we've got week 4, which is Battle of the Bikes. But for now, from the jungle circuit in Watopia, from me and from Wes Salzberger, it's a very good bye.